So, welcome back for episode 2 of Five Star Conversations. Really looking forward to this one. I got my guy, Erick Woods, and I know the term my guy gets thrown around way too much, but it couldn't be more sincere here. Erick, let's just run down the accolades first. He's an A10 champ. He played in the Sweet 16. He was a head coach at the the collegiate level, the high school level, where we met. He was the director of student athlete development at St. Joe's. He is currently the assistant principal at Roman Catholic High School. Welcome, Erick.
John, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and have a good conversation. Anytime I can talk and have a conversation with people around student athlete life is just an honor and a privilege. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. So let's get into it. And you say that it's an honor and a privilege. And for those that don't know, that's not lip service.
No.
When I started Five Star Hiring, I emailed every school in a 50-mile radius of Philadelphia, and Erick responded before I got a chance to send the next email. He was on top of it. So right, like let's start with that. Or from the beginning, you were kind of all in on Five Star Hiring and our going pro message. What is it about our message that had you all in from the beginning?
So when you reached out to me, it kind of was bigger than me and it was really bigger than you, right? I was in a position at St. Joe's where I was attempting to create programming and opportunities and experiences for our student athletes that were beneficial. So we had a few different pillars, but one of the pillars was career development. And in thinking about programming and trying to get our student athletes at St. Joe's in front of people who could open doors for them or create opportunities, um, your email came along at the right time. And I was just open to hearing about your message, hearing about opportunities that you could have for our student athletes at St. Joe's. And I was really all ears. And I've been on the other end of those type of emails. And I always want to respond to people who are reaching out, trying to do good things and help people because I put my services out there also. So I've been on the side of no response emails. And I didn't want to be a person who got an email and didn't respond to someone who was trying to do great things and help kids. So that's really why I responded to you quickly and I opened our doors at St. Joe's to you and helped you come in and help our student athletes.
And we're thankful for that still to this day. And you mentioned that one of the pillars being career development. I personally feel that the career development aspect of the student athlete experience is where a lot of schools fall short.
Yeah.
As somebody who was in that role,
Yeah.
do you feel from an not from your role, but kind of what you dealt with from the administration side of things? Do you feel that most schools fall short there because they don't have the resources, or do you feel that they look at it like somebody coming in from the outside is almost like an affront to them, like, now we got this, like
Right.
whereas I look at it as it's should be viewed as more complimentary. What's
Yeah.
it like
So
for somebody inside the institution?
yeah. So my experience as an athletic administrator and talking with colleagues or kind of counterparts from the A10 conference and throughout the NCAA, for years, it was looked at as something that was not a priority. So, from an athletic department standpoint, there was no programming created around creating opportunities for student athletes. And I feel like, from an athletic department standpoint, it was kind of looked at as the university can handle that. We are just focused on athletics. we are focusing on winning championships, winning games, creating athletes that could become professionals, right? So when I got into the space, I created pillars, and I was adamant about having career development be something that was important to St. Joe's University because, from my experience, right, as a student athlete, there was no intention around, okay, let's give our student athletes experiences in career fields where they have interest. Let's create relationships where they may have interest, and let's create hands-on experience where they may have interest, right? So I wanted to create those opportunities for our student athletes because it wasn't there when I was a student athlete. So I wanted to make sure that in my role, I created those opportunities for student athletes to shake hands with people in career fields that they have interest in. So now those relationships turn into opportunities when they graduate. So that goes along with creating networking nights, uh, creating career forums where people can come in and talk about their journey as a student athlete, but also talk about their career that they are in now. So being able to create those type of programs across the board was really important to me because in years past it wasn't a priority, and I wanted to be someone who changed that.
And I think St. Joe's was lucky to have somebody who looks at it from a student athlete perspective, uh,
Right,
rather than, like you said, just where it's winning. Uh,
right.
I think even in today's environment, I don't want to get into NIL because that's, a whole nother subject that neither one of us really touch on. But just personally, I think they're still missing the mark,
Right.
of schools, because they're talking about how to capitalize now, not
Yep.
how to build something that's sustainable, that we can capitalize on long term. But I have
Hmm.
had conversations with many former student athletes who are similar to you, and they talk about, I wish I had something like this when
Yep.
I was in school. It's almost one of the first things they say, and
Yep.
I think you're trying to do a lot of that on your own, at the high school level with Raise Your Bar, right? So tell
Yep.
me a little bit how you now, both in your role at Roman, and also, with your Raise Your Bar, what are you doing to prepare the next generation of student athletes?
So I like that question because, you know, today's student athletes have so many different opportunities that they could use to leverage who they are as student athletes and catapult them into the rest of their life, right? So at Raise Your Bar, at the high school level, I'm trying to help our student athletes understand the power, influence, and opportunity that they have, and really harness all three of those things. Well, really not three, but all of those things into transitioning into their college life successfully. So with Raise Your Bar, again, I have about 6 pillars with Raise Your Bar. So it's leadership, it's character development, it's social media, it's skill development, it's strength and conditioning, and it's also, um, the last piece to it is who you are as a teammate, right? And that may fold into leadership a little bit, but those things are really what what is included in my message when I go talk to high school student athletes. And really the big piece is most of the student athletes in high school are living their life and not focused on how they need to live now if they want to be at the college level. They're living their life as a high school student still, but they have these dreams and aspirations to be at the next level. But I'm going to say 90% of them don't know what it takes to be successful at the college level as a student athlete. They think they're just going to show up on campus and it's going to automatically click where they're going to be successful. They're going to have playing time. They're going to be successful in the classroom. They're going to be able to manage their social life successfully. Um, they're going to be able to make all the relationships that over the course of the 4 years that'll help them be successful after they're done, because they're not going to be pros, right? So all those things I try to give to student athletes now before they go into college, so they can go into college prepared and ready to be successful. So a great deal of my talks center around transition from high school into college. It centers around who you are as a leader, because if you can understand that you don't have to be the best player, you don't have to score all the points, you don't have to be the most valuable player on your team to be a leader, that's going to translate into opportunities as a college student, because college programs, college coaches are looking for leaders. They're looking for student athletes who can come from high school and transition into college and be leaders. So helping them focus on that transition is the major part of what Raise Your Bar is and why Raise Your Bar exists. And again, I'll go back to, I built Raise Your Bar on top of all the things I wish I had
Mm-hmm.
as a student athlete coming out of middle school into high school and then going into college. Because if I would have had information and knowledge and experiences prior to my freshman year, my college career may have been a lot different.
Yeah, and I really think that's why we get along so well, because just listening to what you're saying, we literally are picking up the baton, right? Like
Yeah,
you're preparing student athletes for the next level being the collegiate level, and a lot of your pillars already exist right within that student athlete. It's
yeah,
just making them aware of it or bringing it out of
right,
them, right?
right.
And some of them, and that's what I'm doing at the collegiate level, preparing them to go pro outside of sports. We're making them aware of, and you talked about teamwork, right? And work ethic and discipline, and being a leader, how that comes with teamwork. All of those things are what I talk about that are transferable skills. You said that's what a college coach wants. That's what employers want, right? So
Absolutely.
you're kind of just preparing them in for the next step, very much the same way that we are over here with doing the going pro.
Yes.
I think it's interesting though that you have, like, I have the perspective of an employer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have, I think, every perspective. You have the perspective from a former student athlete,
Yes.
from a administrator, and I think the one that we rarely are fortunate enough to touch on is as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I think, we spend so much time, at least I do anyway, in trying to get my message across to former or current student athletes, or to coaches or administrators. Um, but we really need to be getting message to the parents, because not every kid's going to get to hear our presentation, right?
Absolutely.
Not every parent is going to get to hear our presentation, but I think more should, on both levels, from a parent standpoint.
Absolutely. Um, it's funny you say that, because I'm working on creating more content and more opportunities for parents to engage with me through Raise Your Bar. So I feel strongly that parents of student athletes, sometimes they feel like I can send my kids to a particular travel team or a particular high school, and it's all good. They're going to take care of everything. But and really, I kind of made that mistake a little bit with my older son, because he went to one of the top football programs in the state, in St. Joe's Prep, and I
Gotcha.
felt like they had it right. But my message to parents, as I think about how to give more through Raise Your Bar to parents, is helping them understand that if they have a student, if they have a son or daughter who is passionate about sports and who has dreams and aspirations about going to the next level from middle school into high school and high school into college, it has to be a partnership with your son or daughter. You have to help them prioritize certain things in their life so they can be successful and reach those goals. Because let's face it, as much as we want to believe they'll do it on their own, they're not going to do it on their own. Now, there are select few, the top 1% may do it on their own, but as parents we have to not hold their hand but be a partner through the journey. And I truly feel like if parents buy into that and understand that they are their child's partner through this process, the process for each of them, parent and student, will be more successful. um And what I'm trying to say is, if parents understand that it's okay to set a schedule, it's okay to set a nutrition plan, it's okay to set a strength and conditioning plan with your child, it's okay to set a skill development session or structure with your son or daughter. It's okay to do those things and not put it on the high school or the travel team. Become a partner, because once you partner, you'll see success and there'll be purpose to every single day, right? But most parents think, okay, I can just send them to this trainer, or I can just send them to this school, I can just send them to this program, and it's going to be automatic, but it's not. And I'm really learning that with my son, who's a sophomore now in high school, and we are we are seeing improvements, gains, shifts in confidence, because I'm a partner with him and I'm prioritizing those things that I laid out.
No, and I think that you're right, and I see that even and this I think goes beyond just the student athlete experience. You
Hmm.
know, when my older son went away to school, there was just certain things like I preach networking, networking,
Hmm.
networking, networking. That applies to everybody, right?
Yeah.
And he was able to step foot on campus as a freshman and start building relationships. You talked
Right.
about that earlier, and that allowed him to have success. Just that little bit of insight, and
Yeah.
again, credit to him and credit to the student athletes or whomever it is. You can, like, it's a partnership. Like I can give, you can give them the advice, you can give them the guidance, but they still have to go out and implement it, right?
Right.
But I think, like you said, a lot of the times parents are under the assumption somebody else is handling that.
Hmm.
Coaches are also under the assumption that the school's handling it, and the
Hmm.
administrators are under the assumption. Like, so I think that there can be a disconnect at all levels, the high
Right.
school level, the travel level, and the collegiate level. And that's why I think these programs are so important to realize that everybody has a part in this, right?
Everybody. Yeah, definitely.
So, what would you say, going back to your own athletic experience, right? What would be something that you would have done differently,
Mm.
whether it be uh, something that you teach like right now,
Hmm.
or something that you've seen somebody else have success with? Just something that you would have done differently
Yeah.
to maximize your student athlete experience.
So there's two things that I kick myself about every single day I wake up. I'm like, damn it, I wish I would have. Um, and I'll start here. The first piece is that I wish I would have understood earlier how the work translates into confidence and then into production. Into production. right? A lot of young student athletes probably struggle with confidence in whatever sport they play. But being able to understand that if I put the work in every single day over time, my confidence goes up first. And then the production goes up second. Because without confidence, I won't even feel comfortable going out and trying to produce, right? But the confidence comes from putting the work in and seeing results in the dark, I call it,
I,
right?
I, I say all the time, preparation breeds confidence,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
The more
So,
prepared you are, the better you're going to perform. The better you
yes.
perform, the more confident you are in your performance.
And so the one thing I stress to student athletes, my son, any student athlete I come in contact with, it's do the work on your skill, and that gives you so much confidence. And then on game day, you can go out and try to do more. And also you can face failure easier because if I miss one shot, I know that through practice, that next one's going in because I've taken it 100 times or a
Yep.
thousand times or 100,000, right? I know
Mhm.
the next one's going in, so I'm not going to be shy the next time I get a chance. Or I'm going to be aggressive, right? The next time, right? So the work turns to confidence, confidence turns into production, right? That's the first piece. I wish I would have known how valuable and how important the work was on my skills. And I would have just been in the gym every day. But I, I was one of those kids who was just God given, 6'4", athlete, good body. I liked the weight room, so I was kind of strong, right? I could run, I could jump, but just God given. But I didn't hone the skills every day through a work ethic. All right. That's first. The second piece is this, and this may be controversial to some aspect. I really feel like I played too many sports.
Mm.
I wish I would have specialized because I played everything, not everything, but baseball, basketball, football. I played it all. And I wish I would have specialized sooner. I
That's extremely controversial. And
yes, that, that's
and
what I
I
said.
can, and this is something we can go on and on for days, but I'm glad you brought it up because
That could be
like
a
you
podcast in itself.
I'll kind of leave it at this, Eric. Like this is where I am with that. I don't think you should specialize at 10, 11, 12.
No,
I think you should wait to see kind of what you are as an athlete.
yeah,
But it just drives like the one thing that drives me nuts about this argument, right? Because there's something to be said for, you could play baseball, let's say, right? And if you're a middle
right,
infielder, you could work on your footwork, and that can translate to the basketball. I get those things, and then you hear people say, "Look at the NFL draft. 90% of those get drafted. It's tonight actually the draft. 90% of the guys that got drafted played multiple sports in high school.
yeah,
They're the best in the world. They're like just freak athletes. They don't count. Take them out of the equation. Your
hmm,
everyday Erick Woods, who was his God given ability was good enough to get him to St. Joe's.
right,
He's, it's because he played three sports. If he
right.
only played one,
That's what I'm
maybe
saying.
he goes to a higher level, or maybe he does better at St. Joe's, right? But to compare, to bring in professional athletes to the multi-sport argument, I think is wrong and it's unfair. So
So,
it is controversial, but I do see
yeah,
your point. But I
yeah,
think it's a balance as well.
very controversial. So, I was good enough to play. So I got a scholarship to go to St. Joe's to play basketball. I was also good enough to play baseball because I was a baseball player, right? So at St. Joe's, I played baseball too. So just think about that, right? I could play D1 at baseball and basketball. Now think about what it just said. Hey, I'm doing this as a high school freshman, and every single day I was just doing that. Or here's my argument. Here's my side note to the argument in terms of specializing. And here's what I tell parents who I train their son or daughter that plays multi-sport. Choose one, right? But don't stop playing the others. But here's how. Just say I'm a baseball player. I'm going to play baseball during baseball season. I'm going to play football during football season. And I'm going to play basketball during basketball season. But every season in my off time through those seasons, I'm going to work on my baseball skills.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to stop working on baseball skills. My extra time in my off time won't be spent on being a better football player or being a better basketball player. I'll play during those seasons, but in the off times, I'm going to practice my skills for baseball.
Yeah, the
So
primary never gets an off season.
the primary is never an off season.
Yep.
So that way I'm still building my skill, but I'm also still building that athleticism across the board, which people always say it's good to play more sports because the athleticism can
Mm-hmm.
translate in multi-sport, but the skills don't.
Correct. And you're also, if you're able to do that, which is one of the skills that I talk about that you're developing at the collegiate level that's extremely transferable. Two of them actually. You're
Right.
also already working on your work ethic
Yes.
and your time management, right? So
Yes.
you're already developing these skills
Yes.
that we talk about that are transferable. So
Yes.
when to get off of that for a second, because that could be a whole nother episode.
All day.
And I just kind of touched on some of the skills that we find that are transferable outside of sports. Your role as an administrator at Roman, and even earlier in your career, I know you were an educator at various levels. What would you say is the one skill or two skills that you developed throughout your time as a student athlete that allowed you to have success in like a non-athletic setting or a corporate setting?
Yes. So there's two. I was always coachable. So I'm always able to accept feedback and coaching and implement it. Right. And that's as a high level student athlete, they're coachable. They get along with their coach as well. So for the great majority of our student athletes who are going to transition from college into a career, they're going to have a manager, they're going to have a boss, they're going to have a direct report who is going to be relying on them to execute. And before execution comes, there's coaching, there's expectations that are given. And being able to follow that coaching, those expectations is going to help student athletes be successful and also be on the fast track to promotion. Because if you can tell me what to do and I execute it to a T and I'm not really giving you feedback on it and I'm not really bucking your expectations and I'm like, okay, I got that. I can get that done for you. No problem. Boom, done. Deadline met. I'm going to be on the fast track to being someone who can be promoted.
Yep.
Right. The second thing is being a team player. You're going to go into environments and organizations and maybe institutions where you're going to be required to work with teams or work as a team with others. And your ability to function within that team with no ego and being able to work well with others is something as a student athlete it's natural. Now there are some student athletes who struggle being a team player, and those are the people who struggle as adults in their careers, right?
Yep.
Because the great majority of the roles and the jobs here, you're going to enter
Yep.
into a
I
team
say I
aspect.
say all the time in almost no role, Eric, is someone going to throw you in a corner and
Right,
say, "Go work." Right? You're
right,
in this cubicle over here. Go look at spreadsheets all day. You
right,
have to work well with others. I'm
right,
glad that they're the ones you picked because so many times, like the first ones that I talk about are work ethic and time management. I think for obvious reasons. And I think though, like that's kind of what gets you in the door, right? Like
Yeah.
you're going to get hired off of those transferable skills. I could
Right.
look at paper and know if you're a student athlete, you're going to come in ready to work. You're going to have the work
Yeah.
ethic, you're going to have the time management skills. But the teamwork, which is the next one I talk about, and I think that's one where we need to bring to their attention that that's a transferable skill because it's the only one on my list, and I'm sure a lot of your pillars as well, that sounds like a sports term. But
Right.
you said it's the most transferable or one of the most transferables. It is being a good teammate. It's and you talked about it. Being a good teammate is kind of coachable too, as well. Because
Yeah.
if you're not coachable, the coach is going to want you on a team, and they
Right.
kind of go they kind of go hand in hand there. But it
Right.
also fast tracks you for promotion, like you said. It the company culture or the corporate environment loves to talk about company culture. And,
Yeah.
and somebody who's a good teammate is also somebody who can build and develop that company culture. Like they get other guys to buy in, to be
Yeah.
selfless, all of
Yeah.
those things that take team success, right? Like you have to my goals, it's no good if I meet my goals if you don't meet yours, right? Because then the
Yep.
team's not meeting them. So if I in any way can help you reach your goals, then like a rising tide leads all boats or whatever that
Yeah.
is, right?
Yep. I'm glad you mentioned that. And and part of teamwork and being a leader is making people feel like they are valuable, making people feel as if their input is important to team success, right? And part of being a team is really central to being able to say, "Hey, John, I need you to help me with this because I see that you are good at this piece." Or just connecting with people on a personal level so they feel like they're included into the team objectives and and the team success, right? So just working well together is is a is a part of it. But I think a bit an even bigger piece is how can you bring teams together in who you are and show people that relationships with each one of them is important. Showing each and every one of them that their piece and their input is just as important as the next person, right? That's also really central to what we as student athletes bring to the table.
So let's kind of wrap this up. It's again always a good conversation with you, Eric. I think we could probably go on and on in each one of our pillars and have a 30-minute discussion on each one of them
Absolutely.
and how they are transferable. But let's wrap it up with a message from Eric Woods to a student athlete on what should be their number if they're a freshman. You're talking to a freshman in college,
Hmm.
who's or let's say a senior in high school who's they're just about to end their high school career.
Yeah.
College career starts in September. What's your number one message to them for overall success that's going to prepare them beyond athletics?
Dude, this is easy, man. This is like this is easy. And to any student athlete who may be listening to this podcast, who may happen to hear this message and who may be watching this is easy. This is the multi-million dollar piece of advice. And I wish I would have taken it more serious early on. Whatever major you choose, whatever career field that you are interested in, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to your university's alumni the department alumni office, and I want you to ask them to share with you the names of alums who are in your field of work. And I want you to make connections with as many of those folks as possible. Invite them to campus, have coffee on campus with them, go meet them at their office, ask them for internships, ask them to shadow them, ask your alumni office when your careers networking nights are. Go to those and just ask questions. Don't talk about yourself. Ask these alums questions about who they are, how they got where they are, how they like their field of work, and make relationships that way. So to sum it up, I gave you kind of two ways to attack this, but all in all, is build relationships in your field of study and where you want your career to go. The more relationships you have, the more doors you can go knock on when it's time for you to graduate and go into your career. And hopefully, prior to you even graduating, you've done enough relationship building and you've been in internships where prior to graduation, you have a job. So I would say the first week on campus, go find out who those folks are and start knocking on those doors and introducing yourself.
Networking, networking, networking. It's
Absolutely.
relationships are everything. I'm so glad you said that. I will say though, I'm surprised in your piece of advice on what they can do. St. Joe's, to their credit, has one of the best career fairs in the area.
Yeah.
Student athletes or students in general, go to your school's career fairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is an excellent place to build relationships.
Yep.
Like Eric said, and here's an advantage. It's all about separating yourself, right, Eric? The
Yep.
advantage of doing these things as soon as you get on campus, like Eric said, you're the first ones on campus most of the time. Student athletes, you're going back a week or so at least before everybody else. You have run of the campus. Take advantage
Yeah.
of it. Build those relationships earlier than everybody else.
Yep. It is key, man. And to your point, again, I was in my athlete silo, man, at St. Joe's, and I didn't tap into my network of St. Joe's alums until years after I graduated.
Well, listen, I think that's
But
where
I had relationships kind of, and I knew people, but I didn't become strategic about it until later.
strategic about it. Right. It's not just forming really. It's doing it kind of with intent, right?
Right. Right.
But to kind of sum it up, that's where athletes fail, which is or fall short, which is kind of where we come in. But again, and not to beat a horse, but it's that's where administrators fail and schools fail as well. Is
Yep.
not relaying this information to the student athletes, and that's where Raise Your Bar comes in. That's where
That's
going.
why I'm here.
So if you want your student athletes prepared for success, which by the way ultimately leads to them writing you those checks, schools, right? The more successful your student athletes are, the more disposable income they'll have to give back to you. So that's my
Absolutely.
little plug. Eric, tell us where we can find Erick Woods and Raise Your Bar.
All right, sure. And thank you for that. You can go to www.raiseyourbar.net. My website is there. You can reach out. All my contact information is on the website. You can also follow us at Raise Your Bar Media on Instagram. And then I forget what my tag is on TikTok, but it's there. Uh,
We'll
I,
find it and put it in the
yeah,
show bio.
yeah, like I think it's RYB underscore media on TikTok. But if you go to the website, it's all linked there. You can just tap a button and you'll be there in a snap. Lock
Guys,
in, get to it, raise your bar.
Raise Your Bar. Eric, thank you. And everybody listening, find Eric, find Raise Your Bar. He's providing valuable insight to the next generation of student athletes. Erick, thank you for answering that first email. Thank you for being here with us today.
Definitely,
Appreciate
man.
it, brother.
Again, that first email was about the student athletes, but I also was intent on working on building a relationship with you, brother. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, man.
Talk soon.
Yep. Be good.